Welcome to the Voices of the Goddess podcast. We believe that there is a goddess inside each and every one of us. When we use our voice to share that goddess, we support and uplift each other. Join us each week as we interview women to receive the message of their goddess within.
Hi, everyone. We are so excited today to have a very special guest, someone special to me. And my name is Allyson Mancini. I am your holistic nutritionist, and I'm joined by my amazing sidekick.
Hi, I'm Julietta, the magical PT. Welcome to Voices of the Goddess podcast, where we interview women to share their knowledge with all of you, because everyone has great information inside them that needs to be shared with other women out there to support everyone in becoming the goddess they are meant to be. And today we are super excited to welcome Kimberly Olson to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you would please tell our audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me, ladies. I'm so excited. This is fun. So my name is Kimberly Olson, as you mentioned. I'm also known online as the Gold Digger Girl. And so in our community, we serve female entrepreneurs in sales and marketing to teach them simple systems and online strategies. So that way they can learn how to show up in social media in a genuine and authentic way, and ultimately be able to scale their business and create the life that they want. So I have a 5-year-old, Elise, and Addison is 7, and I'm married to Scott Olson, and we live in Austin, Texas. I am from Michigan, though, and Allyson knows this. That's why I talk so fast.
Hey, Julietta's from Wisconsin. So
I'm doing that.
So we're all Midwesterners today.
I love it.
We love it. We do the whole, the accent, the Michigan accent.
Challenge. Everyone makes
challenge.
Fun
Yeah.
Challenge. I know.
I'll throw in a few ace for measure today.
For sure. So a little side note. So thank you to Kimberly. As you heard her say, she teaches women entrepreneurs how to use all these tools and make things happen like this. And part of how Julietta and I were able to start this podcast is because I used all the tools that Kimberly's been sharing with me over the last year, being one of her students. So it was awesome. So a little plug to you.
Thank you. I love seeing it happen. This is so cool.
Because it has been like everything we do with our Facebook group and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, this is what I learned from Kimberly, Julietta. We got to go do this. And she's like, okay, let's do that.
Yes, that's awesome. That makes me happy.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to dive right into the questions, and I will start with the first question, which is, Kimberly, what do you feel your superpower is, or what would it be if you had a superpower?
So as far as my superpower, I call it a spiritual gift from, if you look in the Bible, we have spiritual gifts. So my spiritual gift is I'm an encourager. And I have this a superpower and ability to be able to see things in others that they can't see for themselves. And I'm able to speak that truth into them, and they go, oh, wait, yeah, I can see this. I do believe her. A little bit of them believes. And then obviously over time, we're able to strengthen that belief, give them the tools to make it happen. And that's absolutely, definitely, I feel like that's a superpower, and that's why I'm here. Like, that's what God wants me to do. Absolutely.
I can attest to that, because the very first time we had a coaching call, I got off that call and I was like, what just happened there? Like, she's like, okay, this is what I see you doing. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was so incredible. Like, how did that even happen?
I think it was a little different than what you had said at the beginning of the call.
Yeah, it was. When I think back to that, it was not. Like, where I am now is not where I was when we first had that when we first started that conversation. What I was talking about is not where I am now at all. But it was more of what you were saying. So yes, I can totally see that.
Good. That's awesome. Well, thank you.
All right. Question number 2. And this can be a difficult one. And I know we read a lot of books, but what is a book that has greatly influenced you, or your favorite book?
Well, I had won the most reading pages of all the kids in 7th grade. Like, I love reading, you guys. Like, that was my happy place when I was younger, and going to the library, like, that's where I went, because, we didn't have a lot of money. So I would just go to the library and rent books out, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really hard for me to pick one book. But I would say, if I look back, and a pivotal moment for me was in 2017, I had just started my online business. and was having some success. And I started self-sabotaging, and I realized, okay, I need to get some professional support here. So I actually hired a therapist. She also did like life coaching and hypnotherapy and Reiki, kind of just some natural modalities. But one of the books she had me read was Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Really, really interesting fact about that book. It was so controversial at the time of him writing it. He never published it. And then later on, I think in the 1970s, it was one of the family members was like, this has got to get out there. So I was struggling with issues with alcohol and all that. So I realized like I needed to reprogram my subconscious mind. I needed to reframe my beliefs about myself. And when I realized those little thoughts, you know, of, oh yeah, just you deserve it. You've had a stressful day. When I realized that wasn't me. That's not God's voice. That's not, you know, anything spiritual, anything that's helping me. That was not my voice. I realized, oh my gosh, like these lies. So once I read that book and I started just in real life witnessing it, I was able to make the distinction. And now I very clearly can tell right away when like, it's crazy, like how you can just start to be really obedient to hear that different voice. So that I would say is going to ruffle your feathers, but if you can stick with it. And I did the Audible version. So it was kind of just easier to kind of stick with it because it's an older generation, you know, a time of writing it. So
I think I actually tried to read that book about 10 years ago and I had to stop. And I can't really even tell you why I had to stop. Have you ever read that?
Talked then. That's so, and the way he talks, you know, he's brilliant, but you maybe try the Audible because they have some different like voices and I don't know, that was a little entertaining. 1.5 speed.
Yeah. I love that about Audible, that you can speed things up. Yeah. And I love that you brought a book that I have not read.
Good.
There have been very few that have been brought so far that I haven't already read. So I'm excited to have a new book on my list.
Yay. That's awesome. That makes me happy.
Yeah, it's a challenging book. I think I'm gonna have to do the Audible version of it though.
Well, especially if you tried it before. I don't even read books anymore. I just do Audible. Once I had them, I point they're out there. But once I had them, I don't understand these moms that read books. Like we need to get together and someone needs to teach me because I literally will start to read a book and they'll show up. They're like, Mom. I'm like, I can't.
I didn't read for a year. And I was like, when you made that comment about going to the library as a kid. So where I grew up in Michigan, small town, we went to the library. Like my friends and I rode, that was like a big event to ride our bikes to the library, rent books, go pick up candy at the candy store and go home. My kids are listening to this. They're like, you did what? Anyways, but I was a huge reader. That's all I did. And once I had children, that stopped. Like I didn't read. I just started reading again. I would say in the last, probably seriously reading in like the last 3 to 4 years, but my kids are 24 and 21.
So I have some time.
You have time.
I just need to keep getting those Audible books, apparently.
Yeah, you have some time. Okay, we have to add Outwitting the Devil to our list, Julietta.
Yes, we do.
Okay, I'm going to have to do the Audible version though. Okay. So Kimberly, our next question. And so when Julietta and I started this podcast, one of the things we did was sat down and determined our ideal avatar. And then we did some interviewing. We did some research. We spoke to the women that we felt that we knew would be our audience and asked them some of the questions that we wanted to see what they wanted to learn. So 2 things that came up often was self-care. And I know that's kind of getting old. That term gets said a lot and thrown around a lot. But the reality is how do you find time? Because you are extremely busy. How do you find time to take care of you, to make sure that you're putting your oxygen mask on first? What's your favorite thing to do?
Yeah. And I think that we're all wired to just go and push and more. And we really don't ever feel like we rocked it, you know, like at the end of the day, we're not like, so what we're doing isn't working. Right. And then when you start to learn more about like, it's a very masculine energy, and this is voices of the goddess. So if you think about a goddess, like she's going to tap into other ways to create what she wants without forcing it, and that kind of make it happen. So one of the things that helped me, because I'm very naturally like masculine energy, I'm a red personality, like get it done. So tapping into the goddess is that feminine energy. And you had a chance to meet Ashley Welch, which is one of my best friends. And she's taught me a lot about that. And that's like what she teaches. She says we need both, right? But most of us women, we're just kind of observing men and how they're running their lives, and we're getting in the workforce. So that's our model, right? And that's actually not what's right for women, in my opinion. when we can actually slow down and get really hyper focused on what we're supposed to be doing, like productivity wise, and then create space for renewal and recharge and self-care, we're actually more productive and we feel more content. We feel more happiness. Like I think of my whole life and I've never felt this confident. I've never felt this safe. I've never felt this like rested, like I get 8 hours of sleep. So I get 8 hours of sleep every night. Rachel Hollis, actually, I had a chance to share the stage with her and I'll never forget. She said that. And I was like, what? This is like my idol. She's like such a mogul. 8 hours of sleep. And I was like, wait, if she can do it and I see what she's running and she was flying all over the place, I'm going to do it. So I started sleeping more. And then what I also do is I get a massage, a 90-minute. Once you get a 90-minute, you'll never go back. So be careful, people. Be careful. Because I used to be like the chair massage girl, like 15 minutes, But I realized that, yes, it's expensive and it costs money, but I don't go out and buy shoes. I don't do all these things. Like I had to say, that's what I need. So I get massages every other week. And then I also meditate every day. And that is a discipline. Like that one is tough for me, but I do meditate every day. And by doing that, because I'm such a, high strung person, then I'm able to just slow down for a minute and just take 20 minutes out of my day to just sort of get intentional on what I want. And then I'm really big on family time. So I only work about 35 hours a week, maybe 40, which is crazy because our income just keeps growing as a company. But I'm able to pick my kids up from school, take them to dance, cheer camp this week, just be mom, because why am I doing this? I'm doing this for them, to be the role model and be present. So the less I work and then the more focused I get when I do work, I've been more productive and I've been happier too.
Yeah, it blows my mind when you first told me you only work 35 to 40 hours, because I see behind the scenes, not all of it, but a portion of it. And I'm impressed. And
it's not just me,
I know it's not just you.
True. So that would be self-care would be delegate, people.
Delegate.
Like delegate, y'all. Goddesses, get yourself a VA, get yourself a teenager, like a housekeeper, if that's your thing.
Yep.
Don't you think? I mean, that's how we're able to do all of this, is because we have a whole team behind me.
And that's what I think is one of the biggest lessons I've learned over this last year of knowing you and working with you, is that you are a master at delegating, and you don't micromanage, you delegate, and you trust, and you give that to that person. And it allows you to be able to be present for your family. And I think that's something that we as women have a really hard time letting go and delegating, right?
Yes.
We want to do it all ourselves because only we'll do it the right way. But
there's that side of it. Well, we're the only ones that can do it the right way. And then there's the other side of not wanting to burden somebody else.
Yes. And ask for help. Yes. I know. My babysitter had fallen through and I was like, should I ask somebody to watch Elise? And I was like, no, you've got it. You can do it. And then it's like, what are you doing? Like, ask for help. Go get somebody to help you out. Like, it's still in me. And I'm like supposed to be, one of the people who gets this. And I still struggle with that. Like, you're right, Julietta. That's inherent, I feel like.
Yeah. I know when my kids were little, and for us with Lexi, because she had so many medical issues, it was very hard for me to ask for help, because especially when you're in that situation, you feel like you should be the one taking care and doing, all the things. But I learned very quickly that I had to ask for help. I just couldn't function. And when I really learned was when I got so sick and literally could not function because I hadn't been asking for help. So I think it's so, so critical. And I love that. So Julietta, we need to hire an assistant.
Yes.
Yay. She's like, cool. Sign me up.
Make it happen.
Listen, I'm as we're working on this podcast, Kimberly, I know this, there's a lot that goes on behind it. You're doing a lot of things to make it happen. And we were just talking about it. And I'm like, okay, we need to start thinking about this outside the box. How can we get somebody we might need to get our first virtual assistant. I don't know. So
even super part-time. Why not?
Yeah, really. Okay. Our last question is, and super important question, because this is the one thing that came up over and over and over when we interviewed the women that we interviewed, and was finding accountability or holding themselves accountable. And the question to you is, how do you keep yourself accountable? You have a lot on your to-do list. How do you make sure you're doing everything and get it done?
Well, obviously, we have some different programs that we offer. And the big piece that we have found the gap in the market was accountability was lacking. So we actually get it even into weekly checking in with our students. But I actually don't have accountability. And I think the reason why is because if you watch me, like just see me on camera, see me doing things, you can tell like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. You know what I mean? Like I am like literally living how I'm supposed to live my life. And that took all the discipline, like we talked about with overcoming the alcohol abuse. You know, I coming up on 4 years of sobriety, but that was so hard for me to overcome that. And by doing that, I was able to listen and clear all the fog and the clutter and the stuff that came with that and hear what God wanted me to do. And then it became inspired action. So I don't have a business plan. I don't know how we're going to get to $2.5 million this year. Like I couldn't tell you that right now because I know he knows. And all I have to do is be obedient. And so when that started happening for me, I started getting, oh, okay, you need to do this. Oh, you need to roll out this program. This is who you need to serve. And once I started doing that, I just became like driven by that. And so when I have a list of things like, you know, I'm starting the nonprofit and had the call with her today and that's off and running. We're getting ready to release our 5th book. I'm not like, oh, someone needs to hold me accountable to finish editing that book. Like I'm so excited about getting this book in people's hands. I'm so excited about that nonprofit and serving.
Yeah.
I mean, you should see my list of things. We're going to launch a digital magazine. Like we're going to write children's books. Like there are so many things. I'm so fired up about these things to serve and just be how he wants me to be. I don't have to be held accountable. Now, the reason why I mention that is because sometimes when people say, could you just motivate me? Like I need a kick in the pants. I'm like, I can't. That's inherent. You have to be able to motivate yourself. So then you have to say, am I choosing things that light my fire? Am I spending time where he wants me to spend? Am I like just like getting so clear on what is going to make me happy and need to use my gifts in the world that I just like jump out of bed every day? And I think there's that gap. But when I did need accountability, I've always been a huge advocate of getting into coaching programs, whether it's being a better mom, relationships, managing your money, abundance, learning about the law of attraction, business. I have always been in coaching programs or had a life coach since I was like 20 years old. So as I was learning all these things, my first one, I was 20. When I was learning all these things, you know, I wasn't naturally motivated. I didn't understand all this stuff. I always had a coach. So if you can get into some kind of coaching program and get invested like that, best investment you can make is in yourself.
Yeah. And I sadly hired my first coach with Kimberly.
I was your first coach?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what's so interesting to me? And I don't know where I got this in my mind, but you know, we talk about it all the time. You know, think about it. Your kids have coaches. You hire instructors to teach them things, whether it's tutoring, or my son had private hockey lessons. My daughter had private dance classes and, you know, all these things. But yet we seem to forget when we're adults that we still need those coaches. Like athletes don't make it to the Olympics without a coach. Professional hockey players, whatever you're doing, don't make it without a coach. And I just had never done it. You were the first coach that I had.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you know, that was your first investment into a program and for yourself. Yeah. And whenever you're learning something, like we go to college for things to learn and craft, you know, master our skill and to go off and get a job and make a career out of it. But then as soon as we do something outside the box, we don't have that same thinking, which we need to like, who can I learn from? I got to spend some time investing in this. So that's awesome that you did. I'm glad.
Yeah, I agree. There was something else I was going to say too. Made me think of it. Julietta, did you have something you wanted to say? I do. And I can't remember now. I hate that.
I was waiting for you.
I don't know. Okay. It'll come back to me.
It's all good. But I love, you know, her speaking about just when you're totally passionate about what you're doing, you are just going to be driven to get, like, if you're just doing what you're supposed to be doing, you know, like you're not going to have that internal drive to get everything done that you need done. And, you know, we're talking about this, you know, with the book in our book club, The Alchemist, you know, like, and I always forget, what do they call it? Oh, your personal legend. But it's really about like following your life purpose. And when you're doing that, when you're doing what you love, you almost don't need accountability because you've got so much passion and energy behind it. You're going to get it done. And
you won't have
really,
you know, because I remember when I worked for the last boss I had, I was never really good at working for people, but I had a boss and I was in sales. And I remember always being like, okay, this week you're going to do such a good job. You're going to like go and message everyone and follow up and get people back into it was a health club. And it was like, oh, and I wouldn't do it. And then I would feel so guilty because she wasn't saying anything, but it was self-imposed guilt that I knew I wasn't nailing it. I wasn't knocking the ball out of the park. I wasn't giving my all. And we know it. Like no one has to be around telling us. We know it inside when we're not giving 110%. So that's why I think it's so important to really get aligned with like who you are and what you're supposed to be doing. Because then you just feel like, of course I'm going to do this. I'm excited.
So I remembered what I was going to say now that I listened to both of you. I knew, of course I would. That's just what happens when you turn 50. Just prepare yourself, Kimberly. Okay. So the point of when you were talking about, how God, when you cleared out all the junk and you listened and you took that time, then things became more clear. God spoke to you. You could hear that. And we talk about that, Julietta and I do a lot with our guests, and the fact that we as women, we have a great intuition. We feel things. A lot of us are empaths. We can, we have all that ability, but we ignore it all the time. And we have fears over it, or we think, no, that's not that. I'm not meant to do that. Like Kimberly, I know for you, 4 years ago, did you ever imagine you'd be here? And right? I know. And so, I mean, just the background for Kimberly, I mean, her business has just exploded. It's unbelievable. And thank you for doing that, for taking the time to listen, to clear out the clutter, to get to where you needed to go, because you are really impacting so many women's lives. So I think we as women need to be more open to our intuition, God's voice. How, I know a lot of our listeners feel different things, the universe, whatever it is for you, but start paying attention to it. I think it does make a huge difference.
Yeah. And when you hear it, when you don't listen, it's because you don't have confidence in yourself and you don't believe that was for you, and it is for you. Like if you hear that little like, ooh, I should go do that, and then you go, no, that's dumb. Who am I who would want me to hear? You start talking it away. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be obedient in trust, even then you can't see what it's going to be. That's really what faith is. And that's what belief is taking that step, even when you can't see for sure it's going to work out.
Right.
The leap of faith. Right. And when you do that, you become confident in the process of taking the leap of faith. So when I first started, I wasn't confident. I wasn't like, this is going to work. I was just like, okay, I'm going to trust and I'm going to be obedient and we'll see what happens. And remember too, everything that's happening to you is for the greater good. It's in your best interest. And we can all think of like maybe a past relationship or something happened and you're like, oh, dodged a bullet on that one. Like you wanted something to happen and it didn't work out. And you're like, whew. I'm so glad there's divine intervention and not everything I want freaking happens.
Right.
We'd all be living a little different lives. So if anything happens, just trusting like, okay, this is supposed to happen. I don't know why. I don't get it, but I will know later. And as you do that, I really think the confidence comes in through that process.
For sure. Sorry. Yeah. That was huge for me this last year. I mean, I've been wanting to get into holistic nutrition for probably 10 years. And I kept doing I would have friends come up to me and say, why aren't you doing something with health, with wellness, for over 10 years? And I'd be like, you want to know what I would always say? I'm too old for that. I'm too old. It's too late.
Gosh.
And then I was approaching 50, and between having you as a coach and Julietta has been an amazing support and great friend and just everything. And so her and you and a few other people in our BNI networking group, you guys were all like, you just need to do this. What are you holding back for? That's ridiculous. So so feel the fear and do it anyways, right?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Everything you want is on the other side of fear.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's so true. It's 100% true.
Sure. Okay. So we're going to wrap this up. And what we do as a final wrap up is go around and share our takeaway. And I'm going to let Julietta, you start with what is your takeaway from today?
Well, I'm excited. I got a new book to read or maybe probably listen to. I've talked about it before that I was always like, I love books. I love holding a book, smelling a book, like they're turning the pages, like that's really special. But several years ago, I was doing a coaching program where we had massive book reading list. And it was just like, how am I going to accomplish this? When am I going to get these books read? And like, where do I have time in my life? And it was like, oh, when I'm in my car. So I'm going to have to let go of my stubbornness around, I have to read a book and just try listening to it. And I actually enjoyed it. And I do still enjoy holding a book and turning pages, but Audible is a great resource. So I am adding
Outwitting the Devil. Outwitting the Devil.
Outwitting the Devil is going on my Audible.
Yay.
Yes. All right, Kimberly, what is your takeaway from today?
My takeaway from today is that I'm not alone. Obviously, you both can identify with what I was sharing. But I think that the biggest thing is realizing that everything that you have is already in you. Mm-hmm. All we're here to do is to learn that. So there's some unlearning, like transformation comes by letting go of things. Mm-hmm. But sometimes we're like, I'm going to join the gym and I'm going to clean up my diet. I don't think it's really that. I think it's clearing out stuff. I think it's clearing out the clutter. I think it's looking at your life and saying, what here isn't serving me anymore? What doesn't bring me joy? Maybe short-term joy, right? Like eating that, swinging through the McDonald's driveway, you have joy for a minute, right? Or having the wine. But what are the things in your life that maybe aren't truly bringing you closer to what you want? And realizing that you are in the driver's seat. We think that things happen to us, but they don't. They happen for us. And when we start to realize that we really are in control and we can change things, change our family tree, as I call it, that I've been able to do, we really can create what we want in our lives.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And thank you for bringing that, because you helped me learn that this last year. So thank you. Okay, my takeaway, Julietta, is we need a virtual assistant. That's it.
I love it.
I need someone to do some of our podcast stuff for us. That's what we need. But no, honestly, my takeaway really is that it's a lot what just Kimberly just said, is that, I waited so long to do what I really felt called to, felt a passion for, because I was afraid. And I kept second guessing it and thinking, no, that's not really what I'm supposed to do. But it will keep eating at you. It will keep coming up and coming back to you over and over and over. And I also truly believe that I did need to go through the process that I went through to get to where I'm at, because I couldn't do what I'm doing without the experience of what I've been through. I couldn't have done it had I not gone through the experience of getting ill myself, had I not gone through what I went through with both my children and their health struggles. So going through all that was also important. But I hope that if you're listening here in the audiences, that you will feel the fear and do it anyway. Step out of your comfort zone, and you're never too old, because I went back and got certified at the age of 50 for my holistic nutrition certificate. So you know what? I mean, what do they say? 50 is the new 30. I'll go with that.
Sure. Sign me up. Why not?
All right, Julietta, do you want to wrap us up?
So first I want to say thank you, Kimberly, for joining us today. It's been wonderful having you on the show. And thank you for inspiring Allyson to be my partner in crime on our Voices of the Goddess. Absolutely. And thank you to our audience for joining us today. And as always, if you want to find out more information about anything that we talked about today, or get in touch with any of us, in the comments, in the show notes, you will find the links to everything we've talked about today, so you can connect there. So have a magical day, everyone.
Thank you. See you.